Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation. Good evening and welcome back to Computerized Start Live. I'm your host, Justin D. Morgan. And I have pulled the bait and switch on you all because in the past 30 minutes, I decided we're working on something else and I didn't have time to update the thumbnail. So we are working on something else. Sorry for the bait and switch, but I just could not get excited to work on the Profile 3 tonight, no matter how hard I tried. Well, let's see here who we have in the chat, who I hope is going to be understanding of our change in topic at the last minute. We have Stian. Hi, Stian. We have Sadmac356. Hi, Sadmac. We have Thomas Armstrong. Hi, Thomas. We have Gut Bomb. Hi, Jason. We have Callan. Hi, Callan. We have SJ Brian EXE. Hi, SJ. Sadmac's asking, what are we doing then? We'll get to that in a few moments. Gut Bomb's asking, what is your current basement temperature? It is 46 degrees Fahrenheit. We just ticked up to 46.2 degrees Fahrenheit. And for those of you that think that I might be, like, pulling your leg, no, there you go. There's the thermometer. It lives on top of Claris unless I move it. And, yeah, I've got my space heater running behind me, which is, well, not quite helping yet. I've got my heater at my feet. And now you see why I couldn't get excited to work on the Profile 3. In fact, if the heaters don't, we'll just say that it's supposed to get down to like 18 degrees Fahrenheit outside tonight. But that's got nothing on Sunday. It's supposed to get down to like 4. And they also are predicting that we'll have between like 3 and 27,000 inches of snow right now, but that's beside the point. Gut Bomb says it's 14 degrees Fahrenheit outside here right now. I think we were at 23 degrees Fahrenheit when I checked my weather app 15 minutes ago, so we're probably down to 22. Oh, yes, Stian says, okay, you're here now. For some reason, YouTube sort of freezes when you have the stream waiting for a while. Oh, 46.6. Maybe the heaters are starting to take effect. Anyways, see, Coffee Goal, link is in the description. You probably see that I have bubble wrap on the bench. It's because, yeah, because I've got to bring you this important announcement before I explain why the box is not downstairs.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment, Wheel of Regrets. Here's your host, Justin D. Morgan.
Hey, who comes up with these titles anyway?
Yes, this first and only potential regret comes to us from Michigan. And the reason why I've taken it out of the box already is because there were 3 red spots on the box. And once I noticed them, I stared at them for a while. And I couldn't decide if it was Sharpie or blood. And I decided to err on the side of caution, open the box immediately while I was fully aware of the fact there was suspicious dots on the box, put the box in the trash, and then wash my hands thoroughly. So anyways, this item comes to us from an eBay seller in Michigan. So hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Michigan. The seller might have left, may have cut themselves on something, or it could have been the postman, or it could have been a Sharpie marker, but I don't know why. Yeah, hopefully it was Sharpie. Anyways, I decided that I was just going to, like, not risk it and leave the box in the trash upstairs. So I have a set of the rear covers for an Apple II GS. So yes, you might know which seller this might be from now. So anyways, Stian says, skin is pretty strong, but it can be leaky, especially with sharp cardboard edges. Yeah, it was on the label, so I'm wondering if someone was marking the label for some reason. But anyway, so, yep, that's our potential regret. Apple II GS porthole covers. So anyways, yeah. Not from eBay, because I don't trust eBay sellers at all when it comes to Arctic thermal compounds. Not a sponsor, but I probably have been using them since 2001. I just don't use Arctic silver anymore because it's conductive. I decided to try some MX7 because, well, I've got my MX4, but it's the 2019 edition. This is supposedly the new latest greatest stuff. After they discontinued, let's see, I think they came out with MX5, and then I think they discontinued MX5, and they came out with MX6. I thought I'd give MX7 a try. Hey, Garth, welcome! Making supper, but listening. All right. So anyways, yeah. Let's see if my, Arctic silver is real or fake. Why don't we? Assuming I can figure out where I put my phone. All right. Because I got a tube of Arctic from Amazon, and by the time I used it, it was like so dried up. I sure thought it might have been fake, but I'm just wondering if somehow I just got a tube that wasn't sealed the way I thought it should have been. Anyways, we've got the phone. All right, current packaging version says to check the seal. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. Check the seal. Wait, I don't see a seal on this box. Gupum wants to know what's for supper, Garth. So, according to their instructions, there's supposed to be a scratch-off seal on the box. And I don't see a scratch-off seal on the box. Does anyone... Am I overlooking something? But, Kabam says, fake thermal paste is a thing? Wild. I know. Oh, wait a minute. Newest packaging version. Enter the code on the... Oh, it may be a code on the syringe. Okay. Let's open this, because if this is fake, Amazon is so getting a return, even if I have opened it. Alright. Maybe the code is on the syringe. You would think, though, that Arctic would have, if they started putting the code on the syringe, that maybe they would update their webpage to put those instructions first. Because, yeah, I realize I most... Stian says, at this point, you can get fake fakes. Yeah, Gutbomb says they won't care if you open it. Yeah, I know that Amazon won't. Oh, there we go. Here's our code. Although, what's to say that the fakers can't print a fake code on it? 7. So my code is, I'm going to decline to say what the code is in case someone were to try to do shenanigans with my, from my live stream, because... Oh, okay. Well, apparently it is an authentic Arctic product, so very well. But yeah, apparently the code's on the tube. Kind of right there. So anyways, alright, I have MX7. I hope it works. Hi, 1-Bit Fever Dreams, welcome. Oh, Gutbomb says the codes are probably algorithmic and the fakes get blocked. Yeah, probably. Alright, well anyways. I have more thermal paste. Because I think you can see from the sight windows on this tube that I'm almost out of MX4. Fortunately, it does look like they did put a non-label covered part of the tube there, so I know how much I have. But anyways, there we go. MX7, yet another product for people to say, that's the wrong product. That's too expensive. Hi, Chris. Welcome. Yes, I saw your picture, and I believe I recognize which restaurant you all were at. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that restaurant looks familiar. Hey, Sylvestron, welcome. All right, so now that we got through Wheel of Regrets and we opened my MX7, so if I need thermal paste, I can try the new stuff. And, oh! Chris says, lol, different location but similar setting. Yes, I thought the restaurant setting looked familiar. All right. So, I am not working on the Profile 3 tonight because I could not psych myself up to work on it. Oh, we're at 47.5 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, we are warming up slowly but surely. We are instead going to work on a couple different motherboards. The first one is this one here, which I need to find a little box or something to set it on. It's nothing special, other than I was looking at it on Dave's stream the other day, and I tried to get it to work with one of my IBM 6x86MXs. It detected as the wrong clock speed, and I think I have figured out why, as well as I want to try to install the Mr. BIOS on the board. But in order to do that, I need to make a small modification to an ATX extender cable so that I can actually plug in a power supply, because this board was obviously made before 24-pin power supplies were a thing, and you can't actually plug a 24-pin power supply in because of these two capacitors. And you're probably thinking, but Justin, can't you separate the 4 pins off the power connector? Not on the latest power supplies, because at this point it seems like they've started to figure out that no one makes a 20-pin motherboard anymore. So my bench ATX power supply, you cannot separate the extra 4 pins on the ATX connector. If I had known that before I ordered it, I probably would have still ordered it, because it was a decent power supply at a good price. I would have just probably bought an extender cable sooner so I could make an adapter so that I could use it without crushing the capacitors. So, yeah, I will have to try to find my I think I see it there. So basically what I need to do is cut the 4 pins off here. Yeah, I can put a 20-pin extension on it, but I don't have a 20-pin extension. All my extensions are 24-pin. I need to make a 20-pin extension. Wait. It feels like I've done this before. Oh, I think I cut it down to 14 pins. No, okay, that's why it feels familiar. I was about to say, wait a minute. I think I've done this before. All right. So, now that I have marked which pins need to go, so I can make a 20-pin extension. Now I got to find the tool to cut this with. But anyways, before I do that though, let's go to the what mistake did I make when I set this board up. So here are our clock multiplier jumpers right here, and there are, oh, actually that is the bus speed. No, those are the wrong jumpers. It is, where are the multiplier jumpers on this board? Oh, here we go. I think these are the, yeah, it's these ones here. These are the multiplier jumpers. Freak 1, Freak 2, and Freak 3. Hey, Jesse, welcome. And then there's this lovely little table here of what the jumper settings are for the multipliers. And as you might notice, depending on which processor it is, the multiplier settings are different. For example, if you're using a P54C, which is going to be the original Intel processors, your multipliers are 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3. But if you are using a K5, which is going to be the AMD K5, well, you got 1.5, 1.5, 1.75, and 2x. If you're using the Cyrix 6x86, nothing before or after, your multipliers are 3x, 2x, 1x, 4x. But if you are using a P55C, which is going to be your Pentium MMX, the M2, which is your 6x86MX, or AMD K6, your multipliers are 3.5, 2, 2.5, 3. Now, the observant among you might already have figured out what I might have done wrong. All 3 jumpers are on 1 and 2. And I made a mistake, and I set this board as if I had an M1 processor in it, but this is a 6x86MX. I should have used the M2 settings, which means For the 3x multiplier, I actually need 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2. So indeed, when I was on Dave's stream and this thing was reporting as a 266, it's because it actually was running at a 3.5 multiplier, which is overclocked. These Cyrix processors already run hot enough as they are, so I am going to go ahead and clock this at the proper frequency because, as I think I joked on a previous live stream and no one reacted on the chat because it was such a dad joke, that these Cyrix processors were the hottest thing around besides the sun. So there we go. That should be the proper multiplier setting for a 6x86MX processor that needs a 3x multiplier because the PR300, or no, the PR233, which is what this is in it, runs at 66 megahertz times 3. And for those of you doing the math saying, Justin, that only adds up to 200, yeah, that's the deviousness of the PR system. It runs at a lower clock frequency than it's rated at. So, yes, this has been your the more you know PSA. Thomas says, hot dad joke, yeah. Stian says, kind of impressive that it handled that overclocking. It probably handled the overclocking because I didn't try to do much with it. Or I managed to win the Silicon Lottery, and this is one that got sold as a 233 because IBM needed 233s. Because that is something they do sometimes. If a chip manufacturer gets an order for a lot of a lower rated processor, sometimes they will derate higher speed processors as a lower part just so they can sell the volume of processors that someone is wanting to commit to buy. And it is possible that IBM had an order from an OEM for 233 megahertz, or the PR233s, and they decided that to fill the order, they would sell some 266s as 233s and mark them lower. So Gutbum says, Justin, it sounds like you're conducting square dancing with the 1, 2, 2, 3 stuff. Ian says, I was thinking auctioneer. Sadback says, nah, Stian, he's speaking too slowly and clearly to be an auctioneer. Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you why they decided to remove channel names from the chat, but obviously they, Oh, Thomas says, they stuck a number at the end of my name. And we have Francois. Hi, Francois. Welcome. All right. So now that I have fixed the multiplier on this board, let's fix the... Oh, wait. Let's do one more thing. And then we'll fix the extension cable so that it actually will go in the motherboard. But let's take a new coin cell, because this is the old coin cell battery. And we'll go ahead and replace the coin cell battery. Oh, there we go. I was about to make some comment about how it was kind of odd that this motherboard didn't have... It had floppy, but not IDE, but that's because the IDE ports were staring me right in the face. This is quite an interesting battery holder. It's got a little plastic tab to hold the battery in. I mean, it is kind of nice because it makes it easier to remove the battery, because you just kind of push the tab down and slide the battery forward. Hopefully it doesn't break. But anyways, I just replaced the coin cell battery, so at least it should keep its CMOS settings. Alright, so now I need to grab my oscillating multi-tool. We'll set this to the side. Actually, before I pull the battery out of this, I'm going to dust the board slightly. I'm going to mute so I don't deafen all the headphone wearers. And we have Pentium MMX in the chat. Welcome, Pentium MMX. Just removed the password on my Toshiba Satellite Pro 430 CDT. Nice. Oh, made one of those 25-pin loopback dongles to make that possible. And we have Hardware Hacker. Hi, Hardware Hacker. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So let's do some slight modification to my extension cable here. All right, so I do not want to cut my silicon mat, so basically what I'm going to do is cut these 4 end pins off. And I just want to cut it far enough that I can, there we go. And now I should just be able to very carefully do this. All right. Problem solved. There we go. I think I have the minimum of manglage of the pins. And I'm going to take care of this end here. Get rid of the clip there. Hi, Dave. Welcome. We're doing some extension cable modifications. All right, and because I'm trying to control this. Oh, oh yeah, I muted for the air duster, but this I'm giving you the full home improvement experience. And a little further to go. I'm trying not to, like, dull my blade too much when it hits the workbench. It's almost like maybe if I had a little box or something to set on that when that inevitably sails right on through. You know, you would think I would have a box. Oh, okay. Here we go. Yeah, blocks of wood scrap would work great for that. Well, oh, it must. Oh, I see. I'm getting. I'm having trouble cutting it because of the metal pins. Well, the good news is I haven't cut any of the wires. Just Dave says I used a box knife when I made mine, but your method is more exciting. Yeah, that would assume I had a box knife handy. I mean, do I have a box knife? Yes, somewhere. Do I have it handy? No, of course not. I'll find it tomorrow when I least need it. Let me see if I can't use the side cutters to. Yes, this stream is not sponsored by Ryobi, but it has gone full Ryobi. If Ryobi wanted to sponsor me, I don't know why they would. They can reach out to me. Shameless sponsor plugs at, well, that's not a real email address, .jdmcs.com. I'm trying to see if I can find which one of these is the correct one to relieve the clips on the Molex pins, because I figured I could. This priority mailbox was used to ship. This priority mailbox was used for its proper purpose. It's from Console 5. It has paid paid postage on it. Although I should probably still not. Oh, there we go. I cut it enough that I was able to twist it the rest of the way off. So there we go. I now have a totally custom 20-pin extension cable brought to us by Bad ASMR and my Amazon purchase. But anyways, for the records of the Postal Service, as you can see, there we go. This came from Console 5, so it already had paid. It was already used for proper purposes, and now I will throw it away like the Postal Service expects you to do with priority mail packaging, although they'd probably say, but you're not supposed to even do that. You gotta just mail it. Yes, Jesse says, I would also like to express my fondness for that particular parts company. Yes. All right, so there we go. My custom 20-pin extension cable. There we go. Now, this motherboard, you have to set whether you're using an AT or an ATX power supply. I do not know why, but there we go. I have set it for ATX. Now I can take my Thermaltake power supply. Which, I wasn't kidding. It's a 24-pin connector, and you cannot separate the last 4 pins. But now, I can plug it in here. There we go. So, I've plugged it in there. I now have it in the motherboard. If you're wondering why I bought this Thermaltake power supply, it's because it was I think it was the cheapest power supply that had 20 amps on the 5-volt rail. Because a lot of newer power supplies don't even give you 20 amps on the 5-volt rail, because most modern computers derive all their voltages from the 12-volt rail. All right, so there we go. Yep, this is an FIC PT-2011. It's an okay board. Sadmax says, I doubt they care that much about what you do with the box once postage is paid after receiving it. Yeah, probably not. But for the record, though, I wanted the Postal Service to know that, yes, that box was used for mailing me something, and I then decided to use it to protect my workbench before throwing it away. And by doing that, I will be more likely to use post-priority mail in the future, because I get things faster, and then I get a box to protect my workbench for a live stream, and then I get to recycle it or throw it away. Alright, so let's see here. We've got keyboard, motherboard, power on it. I want to make sure it powers up, and then we'll, Epom says, is there an advantage to having a metal workbench? No. I think there is a disadvantage to having a metal workbench in that it's conductive. It's just, when I bought workbenches for streaming, before I wanted metal, because I was like, well, if I set the soldering iron down on it, it won't catch on fire. But I think I've realized that I'm more careful than that. You don't just set soldering irons down. Jesse says, because metal is awesome, and my Bench was an old computer desk from the 70s and was $5. Yeah. Unfortunately, these metal tables aren't deep enough, and that's why I constantly struggle with them. So that's why I'm trying to build a workbench. It's just really cold outside right now. I need a video card. You would think that I would have a video card handy. And I usually do. But it... Huh. Looks like What did I... Hold, please, while I try to find the Trident video card that I attempt to leave on my workbench. It would appear as if I moved the video card because I was fooling myself into thinking that a clean workbench is a productive workbench, and I probably moved it because it was in plain sight, and I didn't think twice about the ramifications of moving the known working Trident card for testing. Capcom says I was looking at the listings for the University Surplus and Salvage and briefly considered getting a cadaver table from them to use as a workbench, but changed my mind. Yeah, I could definitely see not jumping on that opportunity. All right, let me go find the video card. All right, so I grabbed 2 video cards. Let me also grab... Okay. Floppy cable, hard drive. Not that it'll give too much away if I use this hard drive to boot the system. Oh, hey. There we go. All right. So I'm going to start with a PCI video card this time. Only because where I had it setting, I don't know if it works or not. It should work. It is an S3 Verge. This is going to be an early 3D card. And I'm not going to plug in a floppy or hard drive. I just want to try to power this up. And let me turn this power supply so I can see the fan in it, so I'll know if I've turned it on or not. All right. So I need to jump the power switch. And I don't know which pins it is. All right. Let me pull up the manual on the retro web. Oh, what do you know? I have the page open in a tab already. That's scary. All right. Let's see here. The problem is there's a blob of glue I need to remove on beside the front panel connectors. Let's see here. Interestingly enough, all right, so that is weird. On the front panel, there's power LED, keyboard lock, turbo LED, suspend switch, suspend LED, speaker, IDE LED. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Wait a minute. Oh, power switch must be these pins. There we go. All right, there we go. We have the correct processor speed. That is a good sign. And we have the AMI BIOS version 1.12. Let's go ahead and oh, can I just directly enter numbers? Is that a thing here? No. Nope, this system is not from the era of letting you directly enter the values. So it is 928, so that is going to be 2128. There we go. I don't have a floppy drive connected. IDEs are auto. That sounds good. Advanced. Yeah, that all looks good. We'll enable smart. Yep, that looks good. Okay, I think that's all good. Advanced chipset. Yeah, we'll leave USB disabled for now. Yep, that all looks good. Power management. Remote power support is no. Alright. Plug and play OS, no. We're going to boot into DOS. Peripheral setup. Yeah, I think that's all fine there. Exit saving changes. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's cool. I apparently set a setting. Can this run Doom? Well, we will find out. Apparently, I set a setting in the BIOS that probably requires me to change a jumper setting. All right. Interesting. All right. Okay. Interesting. Apparently, all right. Well, let's just remove the battery. And we'll let it set for a couple minutes. And we'll try again. Yeah, currently it can't run anything. I changed BIOS settings and then it powered down and wouldn't power back on. So, yeah, at the moment, it's not running anything. What would be the chances that it failed live on air? Don't answer that. I don't want to know how accurate my how devastating my live streams can be to working equipment. Just know that if you get into the hobby of retro computing, you too can have all sorts of fun, including BIOS settings that just like make it stop working, and really interestingly timed failures. But wait, call in the next 10 minutes and we'll include a second computer for more headaches, absolutely free. Just pay extra shipping and handling. Thomas Armstrong says, I'm a fan of the tantalum pop. Well, I am not. I know. I like to replace them before they go. Alright, well, hopefully that was long enough to clear the CMOS. Alright, we will power up. We will power it on. And it powered up, so obviously... Sylvestron says, no, this feel. Just went through a full repair of a 1084 monitor that worked great. Went back to final calibration after a couple days, and PSU dead. Yeah. Sadmax says, good or bad whole refo. Yeah. Thomas Armstrong says 5150, 60, and 70. Pop and the drives. Yes. Hardware Hacker says Bruce intentionally blew up a capacitor on the stream once. Yeah, I know they're entertaining. And we have Frogman. Hi, Frogman. All right, so let's see here if I set the clock again. I think I know which setting probably was the one that I should not change, and we'll, alright, that's close enough. Actually, why don't I do, how about let's just, save them right there. Interesting. And it, it just shut down again. All I did was set the clock. Alright. Alright, so obviously, whatever's causing it to power off after I save the settings, Hardware Hacker says, maybe don't change the BIOS settings when it's working. Call me a stickler for attention to details. I would like to set the clock. Yeah, maybe we'll... I'm going to leave the battery out this time. Maybe we won't set the clock. Oh. Hardware Hacker says, but these details kill the machine. Yeah, while we wait for the CMOS battery to, because there's usually a little capacitor on the CMOS memory, while we wait for that to fully discharge, it'll just hopefully take a few more seconds. I am going to look at the retro web page and see what firmware versions there are. I am going to see that they are already archived. Whatever I'm running is already archived, so... Yeah, CA... Yep, alright. Alright, well, let's just see if it'll work without me changing any CMOS settings. Press F1 to run setup. Okay, it's going to make me press F1. But maybe I can, exit without saving. Oh, interesting. And I just hit Control Alt Delete, and Pentium MMX is asking why a Cyrix CPU instead of a Pentium MMX 233. Because I don't have a good reason. I was just trying to test the processor. Yeah, you couldn't see what I'm doing. Anyways, yeah, it when I rebooted the system, it shut down. There is totally a wrong... Yeah, I think there is totally a wrong setting. Or this board needs recapped or something. Task failed successfully. Yeah, alright. Although, I guess I could be... maybe I do need to go find another processor. Just to rule out that it's not the processor. Alright, so I'm not going to change the date. Actually, first let's go to failsafe settings. Alright. I need to save these settings so that the floppy drive's correct. Alright, advanced CMOS setting. I'm going to make sure there's nothing... this board should have external cache. Well... Okay, that else fine. I mean, actually, let me load optimal settings, and let's start again. That's all fine. Okay, that's fine. Alright, advanced chipset support. DRAM speed. We'll go 70 on that. Remote power support. I think I want no there. Maybe I want yes there. I don't know. Power management disabled. Alright, we'll leave that yes, because the first time I tried no... Alright, plug and play aware OS. No, is there like a... Alright, all that looks fine. Peripheral setup. Hey, Doc, welcome. And hi, Joe, welcome. You have missed me trying to figure out why every time I save the CMOS settings on this board, it shuts down. Something I totally could not make up if I tried. Yeah, and again, I killed the machine. All right. Okay, let's rule out. This would not be the first time I've had certain processors be incompatible with certain motherboards. All right, let's... Let's do this. So we're going to remove this processor, which I don't know if it works or not. That I was trying to figure that out. It is a 6x86MX PR233. I do know I have the voltage set correctly. Alright, so there's that. We'll set that to the side. In its place, I am going to put a... One moment, please, while I find a compatible socket 7 processor. Yeah, let me go grab a Intel processor. That probably will be have the highest likelihood of just working. So let me go grab a socket 7 Pentium of some sort. I won't be picky. I will grab one that I have confidence works. One that I think I've used before, but I'm not going to be too picky over speed. Okay. My Pentium MMX is actually in something. Actually, both of them, because I think I have two. So anyways, because I have 20 bazillion AMD K6-2 processors for various reasons, I have this K6-2 366 megahertz. I also grabbed my AMD K6-233. I think this is the one that was in the board when I got it. I'm fairly sure it works. And then I have a Pentium 133 and a Pentium 166. So we'll start with the ceramic Pentium. This is going to be a P5A, and we'll start with the 133. So I don't need to change the front side bus, but I do need to change the frequency. So for P5A 2x multiplier, It needs to be 231212 here. And then I think voltage needs to be, let me see here. What's the voltage for P54C? Is that 2 point? Wait, no, that's 3. Actually, P54C is fairly high voltage. All right, I'll look at the manual. Hi, Mike. Welcome. Mike's wondering if anyone's going to VCF Montreal. Well, I will not be there because I will not be there. That would have required, well, first of all, that would require me to travel to Canada, which would require me to get a passport and would cost money. So my first VCF event for the year is going to be East. Let's see here. This is a 3.3 volt processor, isn't it? Let me pull up the user manual. Yeah, I wish I could make all the VCF events, but I cannot. So I gotta be choosy about which ones I go to, and the easiest one for me is VCF East, which is why I why I usually go to East. Hold on. Because Intel marks the voltage on the bottom of the processor. Oh, and then there's a sticker on the bottom of the processor, so I'm pretty sure that actually, I'm fairly sure if I run this at 3.3 volts, then no harm will come. Oh, wait, or are these 3.5 volts? Hold on. I think they are 3.5 volts. All right. Well, hold please while I find my tweezers. I will be back to the chat in a moment. All right. Okay. Got a processor in. I got the clock set. I've got the Mike's trying to make all the East Coast ones. Nice. Check pin 1 is really pin 1. We know what that happened the one time. Oh, the Pentiums. The Pentiums are made so that you can't insert them 90 degrees rotated. All right, there we go. That is the correct speed. All right. How about load optimal settings? Exit saving changes. And it powered off. Hardrocker says, it was at this point the processor exploded spectacularly. Yeah, interestingly enough, it just powered off. All right, I am going to do something wild and crazy. I'm going to pull the BIOS chip out. I was going to program it using the flash tool in the board, but obviously there's something wrong. I suspect a problem with the motherboard too, so but I'm going to take the BIOS chip out. I'm going to put it in my programmer. I am going to see if I can read its ID to figure out what it is. And then I'm going to take a I will dump it, although it's already been archived, so I don't need to archive it. But I will dump it so that I have a backup of what's on it right now. And then I'm going to take one of the award BIOSes from the retro web and just like force program it. I don't like to do that, but well, desperate times call for desperate measures. All right. So I think this is a 32 pin. I'm just trying to pick a. All right. So I'm picking a chip that I think is close to what this one is, so that I can do a check ID, read ID, and it's telling me it is a BF07. And now let me see if I can figure out what chip ID, what chip that actually is. Chip ID BF07. I think that is an SST chip. It is a 29EE010. All right, so let's read it. And there we go. Sure enough, that is the correct ID. We did read it out. It does look like I have a good readout, so let me save this and then so let's see here. This is FIC PT-2011 Ridge. All right, so I have saved the original BIOS off. All right, so now I'm going to go on the retro web. I'm going to look at the BIOSes. I am going to see that none of them look like the latest, so I am going to go to where I have downloaded the Mr. BIOS for this board. Probably more correctly called MR BIOS, but Mr. BIOS, just what I always thought it was for the longest time. And let's see here. And all right, so we're going to let's see here. Yep. Okay. Let's open. Okay. And let's program. All right, I have successfully programmed an MR BIOS or Mr. BIOS to the original flash chip after saving the original one off. I have no idea if that's going to solve our problem. It is possible it will still shut off when we try to save it. As Hardware Hacker says, one exploded chip. Ah. All right, well, place your bets in the chat. All right, well, it powered up. And, well, there we go. Press escape. There we go. Well, so far, so good. BIOS ID 09B5SF. Well, that's weird. Well, for some reason, the MR BIOS just, like, exited. Yeah, it's saying it's an engineering sample. That's really weird. I got this from the Mr. BIOS repository. And then my hard drive went all crazy. All right, press escape for setup utility. All right. All right, so I'm going to give, while we troubleshoot things, I was looking for load setup defaults, but I don't see where they are. All right, so it is 10:03. I don't care what the seconds are. PM. At least it lets you directly type. 01 20 2025. All right, that's good. Hardware Hacker says, better yet, load don't die on me defaults. Yeah, seriously. do like that numlock on. Did detect the hard drive correctly. Boot sequence, that all looks fine. Gave it a 10-second delay while I'm troubleshooting. I have no idea what the engineering sample thing's all about. That all looks fine. PCI bus advanced. All right, F10 to record and exit. Antivirus in BIOS, generally all it's doing is it's just making sure that nothing changes the master boot record. It's less useful than you might think. Actually, a lot of BIOSes of this era have it, and you always want to disable it because it can cause trouble. All right, so it looks like we're running. All right, let's use the processor correctly. We'll run cache check. Hardware Hacker says, well, I think it's useless, so then it's less than useless. Yeah, I always turn it off because it can cause more trouble than it's worth. I think in the MS-DOS era, it probably was, I mean, could have had some useful benefit, but the problem is, I think with the way it worked on older boards, and you get to the NT class Windows that like to meddle with things on track 0 occasionally, it can cause trouble. I always just turn it off. Upbum says 13 degrees Fahrenheit outside right now. While we let cache check run, and I ponder on the fact that there might have been a bug in the BIOS that shipped with this board. That could have been a BIOS bug. It's 24 degrees Fahrenheit outside right now. Jesse says, try 1 degrees Fahrenheit. No, thank you. Soccer Wrench. Hi, Soccer Wrench. Soccer Wrench says 12 degrees Fahrenheit here. Whew. Sylvestron says, you too could live in Australia. Soccer Wrench says, for now, just don't look at what Friday is going to be like here. Oh, this weekend they're calling for anywhere from 2 to 20,000 inches of snow here. I'm, of course, being silly on the upper number because all the, none of the models are agreeing with each other. So, of course, everyone on social media is posting the worst case scenario numbers. Because that's just what social media does. Jesse says, high of -10 on Saturday. No, thank you. Sylvestron says, having said that, it's going to be 38 degrees Celsius here on Sunday. Sylvestron says, that's what, 100 degrees Fahrenheit? Yeah, something like that. No, it's like, I think the forecast snowfall I've heard for this area is like 4 to, like, anywhere from like 3 to 32 inches of snow. I could maybe believe 18 inches if that's what it settled on. I mean, it did snow here while I've lived in this area. It did snow here once for 20, that was like 24 inches. That was not fun, because that particular winter we had 3 snowfalls, 2 of which were like, I think 2 were 18 inches each and 1 was 24 inches. And the 2 18-inch snows were like a week apart from each other or something like that. Or there was like a 24-inch and an 18-inch. They were a week apart. And then like the third one was like several weeks later. That was the year that my townhouse was being built. That delayed construction of my townhouse. Or rather, probably caused them to have to take a backhoe and move snow so they could excavate. Sylvester says, "Meh, just a regular Sydney Sunday. I'm used to them. I'm just glad the bush across the road from my house hasn't caught fire." Cut Bomb says, "I would rather 100 Fahrenheit than 13 Fahrenheit. Yeah, let's just say that tomorrow I get to go to the grocery store after work. I'm so excited. Can't you tell? I'm actually decently well prepared, but I should probably get a few things just so that I can have a variety of things to eat. Hi, Sloopy Malibu, welcome. Sloopy says, "For this area, the forecast is yes, you will be getting some weather, and I am excited to get it." Carter Hacker says, "The excitement is palpable." Yeah. Yeah, I figure better go tomorrow than Thursday or Friday after work. Gotta make sure I have enough coffee. I probably should get some cookies, so at least I have something sweet. If I remember, I'll look for some hot chocolate, because I do sometimes like hot chocolate on a cold day. Although I need to go to Harris Teeter to get the hot chocolate I like, so good thing I have an Amazon return to do. Harris Teeter's near the UPS store. I have to return those IDE to compact flashcard adapters I ordered and tried to test on Dave's stream and found that both of them were defective. Which is weird because they're like stupid simple. They're like basically pin-out adapters, and they were defective. Sleepy says, "I like cocoa also." Yeah, color computer. I'm not going to try to drink a color computer. That would be bad. Okay, I mean, despite the fact that this motherboard didn't want to cooperate with the old BIOS, it seemingly looks like it's working with the new BIOS. So someone was asking, can it run Doom? All right, can it run Doom? Loopy says the 6309 is the best. Sakura says, manganese. Sylvestron says, trying to drink a cocoa takes me back to the Will It Blend channel. Now, please don't drink a color computer. I don't want to hear about your case on the, oh, 65 frames per second. Nice. And this is only a Pentium 133. Chubby Emu channel. There we go. I had I was trying to make sure I got the name correct because I'm a stickler for details and didn't want to butcher their channel name. Yeah, please don't drink a color computer. I don't want to hear about your case on Chubby Emu. It would be too close to home. Hardware Hacker says, it's today Trident card. Actually, this is an S3 Verge video card. Alright, let's see. Will it quake? Okay, I did not like the sound the hard drive made. This hard drive I'm using might not be long for this world. I'll put it that way. Sylvester says it's pronounced emu, by the way, not emu. Hardware Hacker says blasphemous. No Trident. I don't know what I did with my Trident card. I'll have to find it. Emu. Alright. I'll try to remember that. .8 frames per second. Wow. Gutbomb probably knows exactly why I am happy at these numbers. And you'll just have to wait for his video. It's amazing what a little bit of processor speed can do. Let's see if this will do 640 by 480. Why not? I think with an S3 Verge in it, it might actually support that. Or not. Never mind. That is not 640 by 480. Do the spinning computer test. Yeah, we'll get that. David Starbuck. Welcome, David. I guess it's working. Yeah, I think it's working. Is this the same? Oh, no, it's not the same machine. It is not the same machine. It's another motherboard, but I mean, it's not too far off, though, from the configuration. Hardware Hacker says, got you confused for a moment. Yeah, I'm plugging your video, Gutbomb. I think it'll be interesting. I might be slightly biased there, but I think it'll be interesting. All right. 124.5 frames per second. Wow, look at that computer spin. We're computing with you know, that computer looks like it is going so fast, it looks like it has ADHD. Oh, look, a HAL. All right, let's, now that we've seen that computer go at warp speed, let's run the pointless benchmark. David Starbuck says, I prefer to be called the better looking and smarter Starbuck. Sylvester asks, now the real test. Will it run Crysis? I actually do have Crysis purchased from GOG, but I don't have it in a form that I could try to throw on this computer. David's asking, what are the specs on this unit again? All right. Let me run the one last benchmark, and then I will go to table view, and we'll look at the current specs, and then we are going to put another processor in it. Sadmac says... Sadmac was saying ADHD... Also, ADHD is an experience, trademark. Hardware Hackers says, next thing a squirrel will suddenly run across the screen and the spinning computer will stop to stare at it. Gutbomb's asking, it says, try running something that has a specific S3 Verge mode. I don't have anything on here that has an S3 Verge mode. I need to... I need to find some things that I can run with specific modes for some of these video cards. That's on my list of things to research. Ian says, I have to go to Norway next week. I generally try to avoid that in winter, but my dad's not doing well. Well, I hope your trip is a good trip. At least not getting stuck in snow. I could definitely see Norway in winter would be a challenge. David says, Descent may have an S3 Verge mode. I don't have Descent installed on here. Hardware Hacker says, hey, I'm also a squirrel tracker. I may have to get Descent on my standard software install. Socket Wrench. Yeah, Sylvestron said, spoiler alert, Crisis won't run on this. Let's see here. All right. Oh, our benchmark score is 14. I got sidetracked there with the chat. All right. So currently the configuration on this system is we have the FIC PT-2011 motherboard. I installed the Mr. BIOS on it. I do have Landmark on it. Oh. Sylvestron wants to know how it compares to an IBM AT. You know, that is a fair question. Well, let me go ahead and boot it back up, and we'll run Landmark. That is a good point. So I've got a Pentium 133 processor installed right now, 64 megabytes of SD RAM, and an S3 Verge card with 2 megabytes of video RAM, upgradable to 4. It's actually a Diamond Stealth 3D 2000. All right, Landmark system speed test. Yeah, look at this. This computer performs like a 139 megahertz AT with a 225 megahertz 8287. Because there's a rounding problem in that box. Because actually, if you look, it's like a 1.4 gigahertz AT with a 2.3 gigahertz FPU. Yeah, it's a it's a 486 running at 200 megahertz. Yeah. Landmark doesn't know what it's looking at. It says the video is ATI. And thanks, Gutbum. I saw your Discord message, but I don't have a CD drive handy, so I'll take a look at that later. David Starbucks says, a Diamond Stealth 3D 2000 paired with a Diamond Monster 3D, the 4090 in like 1996, lol. Sylvester says, thanks for the indulgence. Yeah, no problem. And I guess because some people prefer SpeedSys, we'll go ahead and run that too. Gutbum says, Pico IDE is launching on crowdsource very soon. Well, that doesn't help me tonight. Though if Ian is watching and he would like some testing on 286 systems, I would be open to getting a beta unit because I have plenty of 286s. Hint, hint, Ian. There we go. At least SpeedSys knows what this is. It's an S3 Verge. Yeah, I'm still confused about the engineering sample message from this BIOS, but I thought this BIOS came from... Oh, you know, I think I might know why it's giving that error. And maybe what I'll do is I will, maybe I should copy the official, while we're waiting for this to finish... Oh, wait a minute. I think it's already finished running. Never mind. All right. I think I have an idea of how to possibly fix that. Let's take a look at that. It's possible the problem is I just directly flashed the BIOS image onto the chip. It's possible that maybe the way you're supposed to program it is using the flash utility. So how about let's let me create a floppy image here with the actual flash utility on it, and we'll try flashing the BIOS with the actual utility. That's probably the way I was supposed to do it, but we were having a little problem with the original BIOS, and I wasn't able to get to the point where I could try running the official flash utility, so yeah, I cheated. So let's all right, so let me see here. All right, so let's see here. Need to get rid of the word flash tools off of this. Let's see here. Oops, that's weird. All right. And let me image connect. All right, that's fine. All right. So all right. Inject a folder. All right. I will, let's see here. Reading the disk image live. One moment, please. Temp. Rename this so that the name's not as long. All right. Let's inject that folder. Excellent. All right. Save. All right. Okay. I have created a new disk image. It has the flash utility on it. We will boot from it. And we will see if that fixes the problem. And if it doesn't, I will I'll load one of the award BIOSes on it, and we'll try the flash again from that. Right, but we are booting from the DOS disk. Ignore the errors. I have to fix my auto exec and config this. All right, so Mr. Flash, and I think actually, I think we can just run that. All right, upload V09B. V09B B5SF dot bin, I believe. And yes. Press any key to restart your computer. And it powered off, but in this case I was actually kind of expecting it would power off. Or not. Huh. Harder Hackers asking... Interesting, this board, now that I've flashed the BIOS, it's, misbehaving again. Alright. Hold, please, while I couldn't find that setting, Hardware Hacker. Cian says, so it looks like the BIOS and not the board was the culprit. Well, I kind of thought. Is that a K5 CPU you spy? No, it's a K6. Hardware Hacker says, I definitely could have used one in my blue and white G3. The Adaptec SCSI card is borked, so blue SCSI won't work internally, and external SCSI won't work either. David says, I wonder if a Pico IDE would work on my mirror drive door or my Quicksilver. Hardware Hacker, random question. Does anyone know of a 3D printed case for the 4-port DOS card video adapter? No. Yes, I knew you were joking. All right. All right, well, there we go. Interestingly enough, it's still complaining about the engineering sample, so interesting. Well, the clock is correct, though. Oh. I mean, it is working. I forgot to pull the USB drive out. I do find it interesting that... Alright, so maybe the engineering sample thing is a red herring. Maybe it's... Alright, so I've got the theory that the reason it's an engineering sample is because it was distributed with the, I think this is the one that was originally distributed with the Evergreen Technologies accelerators. And maybe because it was a bundle BIOS, maybe they marked it as an engineering sample, just so that if someone called for tech support, then maybe that would flag it to them that it was a bundle BIOS and not one that someone paid for full price. Although it is interesting that they marked it engineering sample and not like Evergreen bundle. I'm gonna hit Control-Delete here. And I forgot to pull the, actually, I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna try the reset button. Interesting. It powered down when I used the reset button. I Oh, that would explain why it was powering off when I was saving the old BIOS. So the Mr. BIOS doesn't, I don't think it actually resets the board when you save the changes. I think there's something wrong with the reset circuit on this motherboard. I think that's why when I was trying to save the old BIOS that it would shut off. Because I just used the reset button and it shut off. I wonder if maybe there is a bad capacitor on the reset circuit, maybe? Or maybe a bad capacitor on the board. Or, I mean, maybe there is a problem with the board. So, alright, so I turned the power supply off. I'm going to, like, give it 30 to 60 seconds with no standby power. I want to see if it comes back. Yeah, maybe it's getting stuck in reset. I may have to look at the chipset to see how reset's handled. I guess I won't be using... I kind of thought it'd be cool to use this board, but not if it doesn't reliably reset. Alright, so... Well, there's an interesting jumper. Oh, that's the clear password jumper. Never mind. I thought that was like, had something to do with power. Alright, so let me turn power back on the power supply. So if I try to power it up now, it powers up. And yeah, it totally, it is totally, yeah, you're right, Sadmac. It is totally acting like it's getting stuck in reset. Generally, reset is active low. I know on an 8-bit computer, usually it would use a capacitor to charge up. I'd have to look at how this. Hey, Jack. Look, all right, I will have to look into how this board the reset circuit might work on a Intel Triton chipset. But anyways, yeah, it looks like this board's getting stuck in reset, so probably not much more I am going to do with this board now. Other than it's 10:40 p.m. and what else was I going to look at? All right, let me do a quick search of the internet. Let me see if how does that work on 430. What chipset is this? It's the 430 TX, I think. I do not believe the AI summary. Because it's citing a page on TI's website and a page on the OS2 Museum. Yeah, don't believe that one bit. All right. Let me see if this actually might be the Triton 2 chipset. Let me see if by chance. Oh, there's a design guide from Intel on the RetroWeb. All right, let's. PIIX4 design checklist. Is there anything about reset? Power and ground pins. Power button implementation? Let's see here. Flash miscellaneous. Hold on. I found an explanation of the power OK pin on the chipset. Power good. No, I don't think we got a power good problem. I think we've got a reset. I may just have to search this for reset. All right. Reset. 14 matches for the word reset. Okay, let's see here. System reset is on the PIIX4, which I think is I want to say that's the Southbridge chip. System reset. All right. Host interface. Nope. Okay, that's not an explanation of the reset circuit. No external logic is required between init and keyboard reset. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. The PCI reset signal is used to reset the MTXC reset signal. No. Nope, that's not. Here's a statement that might be a clue. Uses ISA reset signal RSTDRV from PII X4 through Schmidt trigger for reset signal. All right, I will mentally file that one. Let's see, that's the resistor on the IDE bus for reset. Nope. All right, so Jack says, "Would you like some glue to keep the cheese on your pizza? It's non-toxic." Yeah. Okay, so it is possible that if I could figure out if there is a Schmidt trigger chip on this board, which theoretically that could be a discrete component that could be replaced. And whoops, what did I do? Oh, I just hit something. So I'm going to, I'm unplugging cables so I can inspect the board a little more closely. Oh, my extension cable. There. Didn't want to come out. All right, so let's see here if I see any. Unfortunately, there's no schematics for something like this. So this is the north bridge here, and this is the south bridge. And I want to say the PII X4 is this chip here. If I remember my chip designations, I don't think it says it on the chip. So I want to say this is the PII X4. I mean, I do know there are a number of electrolytic capacitors around here that could be on the reset circuit. But I also do see a couple of chips here. Like, here's some chips. There's a transistor. I don't know if any of these might be providing any of these are involved in reset, or they could just simply be buffering the BIOS chip. That is also possibly. Hey, Dave, welcome. I didn't say that already. Kind of hard to say if any of these are. All right. I'm not going to spend too much longer on this board tonight because not like I've got parts to repair it. But let's see if I can figure out at least. All right. Let me figure out which of these reset pins is. All right. So that was ground. So this is the non-ground pin for reset. And I thought I would at least see if it's connected to any of these components. Let me remove this glue blob. Let's make it easier on ourselves. Yes, that is a very elaborate silk screen around that chip. It's not like I'm going to count the pins, but it's like they took care to do things like that back then, even though they knew that you weren't going to count the pins, but yeah, there's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah, pins A through Y on the BGA under this chip, and then yeah, 1 through looks like 20. Yeah, it's got the whole grid reference there. I guess that's if you were. Yeah, because it's Intel inside. Yeah. All right, so let's see if that isopropyl, because I was able to get it to trickle behind this glue, and I think it's just hot glue. There we go. There we go. That's. I don't think that glue was conductive, but all right. So let's see here if any of these pins here. Oh, interesting. Oh, nope, I was touching touching. Two pins by accident. Oh, there's a couple. Mark Anning, welcome. Pitchforks, eh? Now, there's a reset problem on this board. Every time this board resets, it shuts off, and you have to like power the power supply down. But these components here appear to be connected to the reset circuit. And we do have what appears to be a capacitor and 2 resistors. I was looking to see if I could see the Oh yeah, IPA. Yep, IPA is not a friend of hot glue, or hot glue. Yeah, hot glue and IPA don't mix. All right, so let me check these components here. So these first two are resistors. I don't know what value they should be. 10k ohm. Okay, well that's probably right. They're probably 10k ohms. 21. Oh, 21 ohms. That's interesting. Oh, I bet one's a I don't know. All right, and this capacitor here is mega ohms. Okay, but are these really connected? Interesting. So the 22 ohm resistor, which you can't see because the motherboard's sliding down, the 22 ohm resistor is connected to the pin, the one reset pin that's not ground. So it must be a pull. Is it a pull down resistor? It'd be a very strong pull down resistor, that's for sure. I can't tell. I don't know. It seems like I'm just trying to see if I can figure out where the reset signal might be going. Yeah. All right. I have a feeling there's probably something wrong with this board, and all right. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have to note that this board has a problem with reset, and we'll have to come back to it another time once I can try to figure out if there is like some component other than the chipset that might be responsible for reset, because it is quite possible that it is quite possible that the chipset's bad. Alright. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily the greatest of motherboards, but the thing is, I don't see any. I mean, yeah, I do see that there is a mark on the board here, but I think it's just a. It looks like it's just a surface defect in the solder mask. I don't see any scratches on the board that look like they would explain a reset failure. And besides, given how the reset circuit appears to work, being a pull down, I would think that if we had a trace break affecting that reset circuit, then maybe it wouldn't reset. But the thing is, it did the same thing when I used the physical reset switch as it did when the BIOS tried to reset the board. Which, not being able to use the BIOS potentially and saving settings kind of makes this not as useful of a board. So, I guess I'm going to have to put it in my repair pile. So, reset. Powers board off. All right. So there's my repair note. Reset powers board off, requires power cycle to fix. That's going to be a tricky one. Francois says, oh dear, 5 a.m. Why do I keep doing stuff for machines I don't have anyways? Well, we appreciate the things you do for the machines you both do and don't. All right. So I guess in the last hour or so, I do have another board here that we can take a look at. This one is a Super 7 board. To make sure it's got the latest BIOS on it. And Jack says some people wake up at 5 a.m. Not me. Well, I'm with you, Jack. If something wakes me up at 5 a.m., I'm probably rolling back over and trying to go back to sleep. Sylvestron says, as far as I'm aware, 5 a.m. doesn't exist. Hardware hackers, 5 a.m. wake up, gross. All right, so let's Oh, I should have probably Oh, interesting. All right, first of all, I should have probably plugged in drives. That would be incredibly helpful for using the system. Second of all, I think this system requires there may be something wrong with this board too. I think it requires a second power up for it to actually work, which probably a recap will fix. It's probably a cap issue. All right. Sadmax says, I've been woken up at 5 a.m. before, and unfortunately, when I'm woken up at that hour, I'm generally forced to acknowledge the fact because, as we all know, there is no snooze button on a cat. Oh, did it actually start the boot? Sylvester says, missed a lot of that muttering. The microphone is very directional. Yeah, I was... Oh. Yeah, I forget how directional this mic is. With the new workbench, I'm going to mount the microphone more in front of me, so that hopefully that'll add a so that if I'm looking forward, it will hopefully still pick me up, because I do have to kind of remember to talk slightly to the side. Sadmax says, I am but a slave to my feline overlord. Alas, she is very cute, at least. Soccer Wrench says, 5 a.m. That's my Thursday morning to do a deploy at 6. All right. Well, at least we got this board to boot. It probably could use a recap. That would probably help it power up first time every time. All right. So let's take a look at hardware info to remember what's in here. So this is a Super 7 board. This one is an Asus P5A motherboard. We have an AMD K6-2, 500 megahertz installed. This is the ALI M1541 Aladdin 5 chipset. 512K of L2 cache. And I do have 64 megabytes of RAM installed, which is a good number for MS-DOS. And I think I have the latest BIOS for this board installed on it, and if not, we can fix that. So let's go to the RetroWeb and this should be the Asus P5A BIOS. Oh, this isn't the latest BIOS. Okay. That's right. I kept staring at this and couldn't tell which one was the latest. Okay, I'm running the latest non-beta BIOS. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Not going to... Alright, let's see here. Video info, I have a GeForce 2 GTS card installed in the AGP slot, which has 64 megabytes of video memory. So I have as much video memory as I have RAM. Yay! Oh, I bet this video card will run Quake at 640 by 480. Alright, so we'll check our CPU errata, and this CPU does have the AMD K6 DRX bug. What is that bug? I have no idea. Alright. The bouncing computer test. 158.2, which actually isn't that much better than a 133 megahertz Pentium. All right, Chris's 3D benchmark. There we go. Yeah, squirrel. Yes. I mean, the rotating cube does look very smooth. I will give it that. 22.7 frames per second. I think that's the same score as the Pentium 133. All right, PC player. Oh, right. That looks very smooth. I don't think it's dropping many frames at all. Actually, that looks really nice. All right, this one was a 14 on the Pentium 133. And its player bench score is 18.3. I mean, that looks really smooth. All right, so let's Doom on the Pentium 133. It was 65 frames per second, which is, I think, nearing the, if not already at the frame cap of Doom. Well, nearing it. I think it can go a bit faster. I think there is a... There we go. Wow. 89.56 frames per second. Now that was pretty good. All right. We're just going to go all the way for 640 by 480 on Quake. Okay, that is 640 by 480. Very dark on my... Yeah, that was faster Doom. It was. All right, I do realize that my scaler and Quake aren't exactly best friends because it looks very dark in the capture. I don't think my scaler likes the gamma of Quake. My multi-sync monitor's okay with it, but the scaler just... I don't think it can handle the gamma. Trying to more point my heater directly at me because it's warmed up to 52.3 in the vicinity of my bench, but I have been sitting down here for now, what, 2.5 hours? I'm starting to... I don't think I'm going to go all the way to midnight because I'm kind of starting to chill. And I don't mean that in the relaxed sense. I have my heater as high as it'll go. Can't set it any warmer. All right, that 10 frames per second at 640 by 480. That was actually... All right, we're going to do 360 by 480. Yeah, we're going backwards in benchmarks for Quake. All right, I'm going to let that oscillate because... Yeah, it's kind of part of the reason I couldn't psych myself up to do the gateway profile is because I'll fix the thumbnail and everything afterwards. Part of the reason I couldn't psych myself up is I kind of suspected, as cold as it was going to be outside, that I would probably not going to make it till midnight tonight. Just one of those things of when it drops. Yeah, when it's like under 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but especially when it's under 25 degrees Fahrenheit, I really can start to tell it after a while. 17 frames per second at the middle resolution, so we'll run Quake Time demo. Yeah, Jack says you got a big space to heat with the space heater, which is why I only try to heat my general vicinity. One day I will insulate at least enough of the basement so I can try to actually keep a room warm. Although I think the thing is, if I would insulate, I would love to insulate the whole basement. 39.1 frames per second, but that's a lot of framing to then put insulation in. If I could, like, frame in a room or somehow insulate a part of it so I could maybe keep part of it a bit warmer. Or if I insulated the right part, it might actually naturally stay closer to 50 degrees just on its own by nature of... That's kind of the ground temperature. Or maybe 55 degrees. Then it'd be a little easier to heat it up because it'd be a smaller space. In fact, actually, if I had a honestly, I've thought about maybe just insulating like this side of the basement. So, like, basically putting a wall behind me and around. If I did that, I'd probably maybe look into a small mini split. Because then if I had a contained space down here that was insulated, then I might actually would keep it somewhat warm all the time. Not necessarily room temperature, since I'm only down here part of the time, but at least could keep the space somewhat warm. Jack says, a lot of furnaces are oversized, so you may have some available capacity. I don't actually know that I have any excess capacity on the unit down here in the basement. Because I think the unit in the basement is, so I have more square footage on the first floor of my house than I do the second floor. The first floor of the house has an extension off the kitchen that is basically windows. So that's not helping with temperature in the winter. So the downstairs unit does have to keep that warm. I also have a vaulted foyer, which beats me if the downstairs or upstairs unit's actually the one keeping that warm. So I would have to call a furnace professional to size the systems to see if there was excess capacity and enough to be able to use it for keeping an area down here warm. Yeah, I have 2 units already, yes. But I know that because I have 2 units, they are not 2 units sized for the entire house. They are 2 units that have been sized to keep part of the house warm each. Jack says, that's not so common in this part of the country except for huge houses. I don't know that that's necessarily common. At least now, like, I can definitely tell you the new construction now, they definitely don't put 2 units in. They try their best to put the smallest 1 unit that they can. Because 2 units costs money. Landmarks Landmark really doesn't know what to do with this computer. We'll run SpeedSys. All right. Jack's asking, is your upstairs unit in the unconditioned attic or in a closet on the second floor? It is in the unconditioned attic. I mean, okay, is my house large? Yeah, it probably would be considered a large house. It probably did need 2 units. There are houses in the subdivision that have 1 unit, and I almost bought one of them, and I guess in hindsight, I'm fairly sure that unit probably struggles during the summer to keep the upstairs cool, because that unit was in the basement. That's just a lot of distance to push air for all the way up to the top floor. Oh, Jack says, yes. Yeah, we don't do the furnace or ductwork and unconditioned attic thing in the upper Midwest. Gets too cold. David Starbucks says, what's a furnace? Never seen one in Florida. Yeah, I have a feeling I have a feeling on Sunday my upstairs unit's going to be kind of unhappy. Although, then again, maybe it'll be okay. I mean, it should be fine. I suspect I'll be running more auxiliary heat than usual. There we go. So we are performing like a... That is a rather dismal processor benchmark. No, I'm staring at the processor benchmark, and I mean, I know this isn't we should have scored at least twice that. It didn't even make it to the K6-2 266 mark. That's why I was staring at it. That doesn't look right. Let me Alright, let's run check CPU. Alright, we are... It claims it's running at 500 megahertz. Let me run cache check while I go. There's a note on this board on the RetroWeb. Let me go read the note. Ian says, my AC has decided it doesn't always want the heat pump function to work. David says, of course, I have 2 very large air conditioner units to deal with. Yes. Ian says, but it does sometimes, so it seems to relate to control circuitry rather than anything more fundamental. No, that is kind of weird that Oh. Alright, so what's this RetroWeb say? Alright, RetroWeb says on this motherboard, due to a hardware problem, P5A Revision 1.05 and 1.06 will work extremely slow with a K6 Plus CPU. This has been noticed with both Rev E and Rev G of the chipset. Well, this is a Rev, I think it's a Rev 1.05. No, it's Rev 1.06. And it does have said revision of the chipset. As far as I can tell. Because there's a number on the chipset that ends with E and G. G on the north bridge and E on the south bridge. So I initially read this note to mean that it was the K6 plus the CPUs with a plus, but I have a feeling what this is actually saying is K6 or greater AMD processors, so I have a feeling we are seeing the hardware problem at work. And I'm going to be very interested as to what Cache Check is going to tell us, because it is very funny how it started with 64 kilobytes. That is very interesting. Unfortunately, the RetroWeb does not elaborate what exactly that note means. So I guess maybe while we wait for Cache Check to finish, let me see if I can find information. Oh, here we go. Let's see here. Oh, it does K6 plus CPUs. Alright, so let's see here. Supposedly it's the plus variant, but something's up with this non-plus CPU I have. Although I'll double check that I didn't somehow manage to find a plus CPU. Alright, so let's see here. Let me see if I can find the original post. Right, well, archive.org. Because there used to be a website called K6 Plus, and, well, that website now redirected to some Chinese something or other. Possibly Chinese gambling site? I can't read Chinese, and it looked like there was like some soccer player on the page, but alright. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what the bug is. All right. Oh. Ah, okay. I think in reading the Vogon's post, I think I know what the bug might be. At I think the board, I think the chipset has defective tag RAM or something like that, or something. Um, I mean, I can't tell you why this board is performing so poorly, but clearly, SpeedSys should have given a better score since it's a 500 megahertz K6-2. Let me see. I was thinking this was just a regular K6-2 processor. Yeah, that's definitely not a plus processor. So I'm not exactly sure why this processor was benchmarking so poorly, but let's just, for curiosity's sake, I'm going to try this processor here. So this is a 300 megahertz processor. Mm, so I need to set, but it's a 66 megahertz frontside bus one. So I need to change the bus frequency jumpers to 232323. All right. Yep, that's fairly easy. I want to there is a method to my madness. Because I know some of the faster AMD CPUs, the non-plus ones, were sometimes plus CPUs that had half the cache disabled. So I don't know if maybe whatever the bug is with this board maybe shows up if you have one of those CPUs, maybe. All right, so that's 66 megahertz, and the 232323 is the multiplier. All right. Luckily, the voltages are the same, so I don't have to try to change the. Well, if I can find the multiplier jumpers, where are they heading? Those are voltage. Core. Oh, there they are. So this is the multiplier for this is 232323. Oh, that's easy. All right. All right, there we go. Configured. Yeah, I realized there's a label on the CPU. Oh, I think for the that I'm going to use this tonight, the label will be fine. I've seen more egregious things done to processors, and they still work. All right. Let's see. There we go. AMD K6-2 300. No, this is a K6-2 300. This motherboard has gremlins. All right, so let's see here. David Starbucks says K6 good, K5 meh. Okay, I can't believe it. So you remember what that K6-2 500 I was just using benchmarked at? Less than this one. That is actually closer to how this board should be working. Jack says, didn't all the AMD motherboards have gremlins? Yeah, you are right. All the Super 7 boards had gremlins. Which is why AMD had to institute a acceptance test for the Athlon chipsets. It's just this board is particularly infamous for apparently at least having, if not thirding, your really fast AMD processor's performance. Because, yeah, that 500 megahertz processor on this same board benchmarked at, I think, about half that number. Which is kind of why I was not impressed by the benchmark scores. So yeah, this processor actually, yeah, this processor is not affected by the bug. So I think what when it says that you can't use a plus CPU, I think the bug doesn't just affect the plus CPUs. I think it might affect the non-plus variants if as well, if they're that same core. Because AMD would disable half the cache and make it a non-plus variant. It could be because half the cache is defective. It could be because they disabled it because they needed more non-plus variants. David Starbucks says, I had a next-gen 5x86 back in the day. Beat the brakes off the Pentium, then Quake happened. Jack says, oh my, next-gen, there's a name I haven't heard in decades. I do have a K5 processor. It's in my first PC rebuild. Let's see here. Yeah, what's the chance this will benchmark faster than the 500 megahertz processor? $101.48 frames per second. That is faster than the 500 megahertz processor, and this one's only running at 300 megahertz. That's sad. That's like really sad. I wonder what the Quake time demo runs at. Yeah, it is almost midnight. Okay, so this one was 10 frames per second. Well, I guess this motherboard is going to get deemed inappropriate for K6-2 processors that are the same core as the plus variants. Which is fine. Maybe I'll use this board for maybe I might use this board for one of the Cyrix M2 processors. I don't think any because the 75 megahertz front side bus that some of them use isn't supported. The TX chipset doesn't support that. 11 frames per second. This is embarrassing. The slower processor is faster. You can't make this stuff up. Well, you know, I may just leave this processor in this board. I may just leave. I may honestly leave this 66 megahertz front side bus processor in this board, because it performs better than the 100 megahertz front side bus processor. $51.4 frames per second. Seriously. You know, if I had bought a 500 megahertz processor and one of these boards back then, I would have kind of been really... I can't... 248.5 frames per second. Jack says megahertz was a marketing thing. Well, no, the problem is this board has some defect with it. I may have to do some more research to see if I can come to the bottom of it. this board may become a video, especially if I can figure out what the bug is exactly. Sylvester says, can't even see the A spinning. 33.9 frames per second. Oh, yeah, and the howl, yeah. Thunderclap. If this, I think, even looks smoother. $17.3. Yeah, I think that. Okay, this might actually be a little lower. But yeah, there is totally a bug with this board. Yeah, Landmark's even showing this slower processors running faster. Okay, well, it's not the errata on the CPU. But yeah. Chomper XT Model 8. Yeah, I can't tell you. So, anyways, yeah, it looks like this board is just not appropriate for a 100 megahertz frontside bus. Or not that not appropriate for the K6-2 Plus and K6-3 Plus, or apparently some K6-2s and K6-3s, even if they aren't the Plus variant, because my 500 megahertz non-Plus variant performed worse than this 300 megahertz, which wasn't. I know it's before the Plus ones came out because it's the 66 megahertz frontside bus version. AMD actually released a 66 megahertz frontside bus specific version of the 300 megahertz processor. But I believe, though, you can run the 100 megahertz 300 megahertz processor at a 66 megahertz frontside bus. It will allow, it will correctly interpret the multiplier jumpers. Sylvestron's asking, can I run the 500 at a lower FSB and see the different performance? All right. Yeah, maybe. Hold on. I think these AMD processors I think they do all respect the multipliers, so. All right, let's try this. That is an interesting question. All right, so anyone's wondering, I'll have to find an angle to hold it at. So, yeah. Notice how this one says has a -66 at the end of it. That's how you know it's a 66 megahertz frontside bus variant. I don't think these will run at 100 megahertz frontside bus. I think the only ones that'll run at both frontside bus speeds are the 100 megahertz ones, which won't have a -66 on it. I could be wrong. But I think the will run at both is limited to the 100 megahertz frontside bus variant. because I think at a point they stopped making the 66 megahertz specific version, and I think that's why the 100 one will do both. I think the 66 ones may also be an older stepping or something. All right, so this is the 500 megahertz processor, but I'm not changing any of the jumper settings. So it should be clocked at 300. Thomas is asking, what make is this board? It is the Asus P5A Rev 1.06. All right. So it looks like it is seeing it as a K6-2 300. Oh. David Starbucks says, my favorite board from this era, the FIC PA-2013, still have it. All right, so this will be the last test of the evening. All right, so let's just go for this one. Because it may be very obvious. And look at that. 104.3. The actual 300 megahertz scored like 248. So, yeah. Doom. Yeah, it really does appear to be a bug with this board and certain... I have a feeling it's not the K6-2 Plus and K6-3 Plus. I have a feeling it's particular steppings of the K6-2 and K6-3 processor. And it just so happens that the Plus variants are always that stepping. But the non-Plus ones could be as well. At 62.29. The real 300, we were over 100 frames per second. I think the bug that the RetroWeb mentions is more encompassing than their page rec does. I don't really think I need to... Well, we'll run SpeedSys at least far enough to see the processor benchmark. So the real 300 megahertz one benchmarked at about the Pentium 2 300 mark on the graph. Look at that. This one, Pentium 133. That is really interesting. All right, I'm going to cancel the tests. I am going to run hardware info, and not that I remember exactly what it said for the processor stepping, but let's see here. Chomper XT Model 8. Well, that's the same stepping as the first one. Alright, I guess we'd have to rewind the live stream, which I can't do while I'm streaming. I'd have to... Well, I guess I could if I opened a web browser. But I'm about done for the evening because I'm getting cold now. I guess I'd have to compare the CPU ID and the extended CPU ID registers there to see if there was a difference. But it does... But yeah, there we go. I guess that does demonstrate we were not imagining things. There really is a... All right, let me move. I'm gonna move. I have some processors sitting on the power supply here. I'm gonna move them to some anti-static foam on the power supply. But yeah, there we go. This board has a bug, and it seems to affect the 500 megahertz processor. I'll have to do some research. There may be a video. But yeah, it does appear as if there is a bug in the board, and it affects more than the note on the RetroWeb and on the Vogon's forum post and the K6 Plus forum post, more than those imply. So, is my 500 megahertz K6-2 really a K6-2 Plus in disguise, that with half the cache disabled? And that's why we're seeing the bug? That is possible. It is possible that that's why we're seeing the bug, but anyways, we'll have to explore that later. So interesting results. Oh, thank you, hardware hacker. $5 little. Yeah, apparently it's a known issue with certain revisions of this board. So I would be inclined to say it's probably a board problem. But I don't have... I have a few other Super 7 motherboards not handy, and we're not going to look at them tonight. But I do have another Super 7 board that works, if not two. But maybe another live stream. Maybe Thursday's live stream we might continue investigating, because this is an interesting problem. I find things like this interesting. So, anyways, yeah, it's past my bedtime for tomorrow being a work day, and I'm cold. I'm getting cold now. It did make it up to... Oh, yeah, and my thermometer just dropped 0.2 degrees. Yeah, we made it up to 53.4 degrees, and then it dropped 0.2 degrees. So, anyways, I'm glad you all could join me, hanging out, being cool, putting up with me not looking at a Gateway Profile 3. Thursday, maybe we'll continue looking into the K6-2 processor. That'll give me a chance to go find my other Super 7 boards. And yeah, I'm glad you could catch some of it, Jack. And maybe we can see, is it board, is it processor? Because quite honestly, I would have been mad to pay for a 500 megahertz processor and get Pentium 133 level performance out of it. That would have been awful. So this might warrant some more investigating. Yeah, it's probably 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside now. But anyways, I thank you all for joining me tonight. I am definitely getting cold now, so I am going to draw the stream to a close so I can go upstairs where it's warmer. So let me see here. Got my finger on the correct place. So thanks for joining me tonight. Hope to see you here Thursday. Like, comment, subscribe. All the YouTube stuff. And with that, hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care, and God bless. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care.